Greetings! Welcome to the Devlog for hot dogs, horseshoes, and hand grenades. We're going to start off as always with a quick sound check. Make sure speakers aren't up too high. So what have we got for you this week? Well, there's no patch, there's no update this week, as I am getting everything ready for Meatmas next week, for Meatmas Day, which actually happens to fall very conveniently on our calendar. But I thought I would show you something that I have been working on for a bit. It is not done, and it won't even be done next week, but it will be done enough for you to start playing with. That's right, we are going to be getting a new scene next week, in addition to all of the Meatmas Day toys. It's still very sparse. I've been focusing on the buildings and the lightings and all the boring stuff, and performance, but this is going to be essentially a scene that's going to be called Grill House, that is going to be sort of a replacement for the breaching simulator, and in many ways the proving ground, because this is going to be my new testing environment for all things sort of door and window related, and the eventual sort of upgrades that the AI will need to be able to actually go through the doors correctly and things like that. So yeah. So what this scene is and is going to be is a series of structures. It's got a main one in the center. It is somewhat similar style to our breaching simulator scene, but this has all been constructed using the new sort of architectural standards that I'm going to be using for a bunch of content in the game, because I needed to use standardized dimensions for a bunch of things to work. You need standardized dimensions to be able to insert doors places. For production sanity, I needed consistent dimensions for a lot of windows. So let's go ahead and take a peek in here. It's not furnished yet. This is, anyone who's following on Twitter, here's the shot of our ominous wiener just looming in our minimalist looking room. Ah!
Time out for me, I guess.
You bet it is. So yeah, so this is a number of you probably saw the video from a while back where I had this scene that was going on in a desert, and that was a scene where I was called Sand Trap, where I was trying to figure out how to make basically new scenes for H3 that looked good, that ran well, that had all of the different sorts of physics collision behaviors I wanted for bullet decals and things like that. And the problem with that scene is that even though things looked really nice, that scene ran like butts, and in part because of a bunch of things that I didn't quite yet understand about how to make things work fast, or fast enough in terms of collision, how to get the lighting and the reflections to behave how I wanted to, while still having everything run well, especially for our lower spec users. And so this scene is taking all of those lessons, and it ends up being able to be a bit bigger in terms of the total number of structures and interior pieces. There's some tunnels for getting from place to place. Overall, this is going to be a scene that is going to be fun for having a whole bunch of different sorts of breaching, attack, and defense scenarios once it is all together. But there's a couple things I want to point out that I'm particularly proud of. So one of the things that I was trying to figure out from a rendering standpoint is how to make windows actually look good, because transparency and reflections and things is traditionally a pain in the butt to get right, and most of the modern ways that people make that look good aren't going to work for us in VR, because this is an older style of rendering and has to run at 90 or 120 frames per second. But what I'm really happy about, and it's a little unfortunate in certain ways, but basically each one of these windows actually has a reflection probe, so basically a rendered reflection from the perspective of the window, and that's why we can see our sort of reflection of the world out here in the outside of this window. But if we come here, oh, wrong room. Still getting used to the layout of this house. We can see the sort of reflection of the room in here, give or take. So I'm super happy with it. It does mean that I have to limit the number of total windows that I can have in the scene at once, because, well, these are not free performance-wise, but what it means is that the reflections look good. They continue to look good as the piece of glass breaks. A lot of games, when I was looking at how they did their glass, basically only reflected analytic light, or there was one side of the glass pane that looked super wrong. So this is actually a solution that I can live with. Oh, that never gets boring. Oh yeah, I'm still showing stuff off. Awesome. Let's open the door here, and perfect. So yeah, I don't think I'm going to have to do that for doors. One of the other things that oftentimes gets asked is like, well, how are you going to handle lighting given that this is baked? And sadly, there's no real clever solution to that. Some games do this thing where they actually like save a copy of the light map for the whole environment, one with the door open and one with the door shut and things like that. And I spent a whole bunch of time investigating pretty much all of those approaches for the past couple months, and all of them stink for one reason or another. So I think the best option for lighting as it happens. Is this still busted? Can I still not? This bug is still here. That until those hinges break, my nav blocker is still enabled. You know what? I may actually try to push a patch today just fixing this bug, because this is annoying. So you may actually, what I said at the beginning is a lie, you may actually get a small patch today, literally just fixing this, because this is ticking me off. Oh, but yeah, so this is just to give you an idea of what I have been working on in general is finally being able to get into the game some cool spaces that are lit the way is compelling and pretty to me. Has a whole bunch of the props that have been, in production for a while now from the artists I have working on stuff. And yeah. Oh, what a trip. To be able to do some cool scenarios in here. Anywho, let's jump out of VR. I've got a couple other important things to talk to you about. Yo! So yeah, new scene. I know it still looks pretty Spartan, but you have to remember that when the scene looks like that, with the lighting working and the reflections working and such, pretty much all the hard part of the scene is done if it's actually running well. From now, I get to actually do like the fun part, which is filling it with props and sort of, placing all the lights exactly how I want them now that I've figured out like my proper illumination levels for a large light versus a small light, a warmly tinted light versus a coolly tinted light, etc. Now I can just move those things around. I can rebake the scene. I can get the props in and then start actually like figuring out, some tactical scenarios and building that as a preset so you can hit a button just like in the breaching scene, but just as a more expanded concept for play with it. But yeah, it has taken so much effort to get to this part. I have kept running into roadblocks. Everything back when I was working on the sand trap scene seemed to be going well, but then I would get these sort of strange performance spikes when I would be moving through parts of the scene, and that ended up being due to mesh colliders. I really hadn't understood how mesh colliders and the axis aligned bounding boxes for them worked back when I was working on that scene, and it was only until I had gotten very far into it that I was like, oh, this is terrible. I can't make this run well and actually keep these sand dunes. But if I hadn't actually done that scene and run into those problems, I wouldn't have known how to make the Winter Wasteland actually run well. So even though those feel like completely disconnected scenes that aren't really related, the second there, last year's holiday, and then turning into a take and hold scene and having it actually run for everyone would not have been possible had I not run into the brick wall of performance issues that I had with the sand trap scene. and figured a way around them and figured a way of authoring content and light mapping things, yada, 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 that all worked. And now I've been able to finally bring all of that knowledge back into making a scene that has, some detailed, densely packed buildings with realistic proportions to them, and yeah, so we're finally going to get a breaching scene replacement. There's still a lot of detail to go into it. I'm going to put in some ladders, some gutters, a bunch of like different handholds. Yeah, that's, as I said, that's going to be the fun part, but even more important, the entire scene is set up to be a testing ground and a performance scaling test for what happens when I actually have a scene of this complexity where all the buildings have glass in them, they all have windows, they all have doors. How well does that actually run, so that I can actually make sure that those systems have been authored correctly, and yeah, so it feels exciting. And so yeah, so so the way this is gonna work from a release standpoint, as I mentioned, like halfway through the NVR video there, I am gonna probably push a patch tonight where I'm gonna fix this blasted door thing, because I don't actually know why it's breaking. I thought I wrote that code correctly. It's probably some stupid joint thing. And once that's going to go out tonight. So the way this is going to work for Meatmas this year is, instead of having the update at 7 p.m. as usual, it is going to be right as Christmas Day PST dawns. So it's going to go live at 12:01 a.m. PST on December the 25th. Because I'm sorry, I'm not gonna give you Meatmas Day stuff until it's actually Meatmas Day for me. I'm still gonna do the devlog as usual, where I'm gonna show off the scene in the form that y'all be getting at, so that you can get excited and prepare to crack into it a number of hours later, if you're staying up late, or in the morning, as people opening their Christmas gifts should wait to enjoy if they have that much self-control. So yeah, so that will all be going in then, assuming nothing explodes. I'm definitely a little nervous about it, as usual. Any sort of like special timed release like this is nerve-wracking, but I'm super excited. We've got some absolutely wild Meatmas Day gifts for you this year. It's been a real group effort between myself and a number of folk working on these. They're going to be big booms. It's going to be great. So, and then let's see, cover that. And then, and one last thing, I've had a number of folk ask, actually going back, actually two more things, but going back a number of years, I keep getting asked if people can like send me a holiday card or some like weird flavored chips from where you live and things like that. So I went and actually got a P.O. box. If you would like to send me like a little holiday card or something like that, the address is right here on screen. Write it exactly like that. They were very specific about that at the post office. Like, it shouldn't have my name. It should not have the word P.O. box. It should just literally be that. So, and if you don't write it exactly like that, they apparently reject and send those packages back. So, I don't ask. So, but yeah, I know it's a little late given that Christmas is next week, but yeah, if you feel moved to for whatever reason, there you have it. And then lastly, remember, you have 1 week left to get your entries in for the Meatmas 2021 Tactical Hot Dog Recipe Contest. I've already seen a number of the entries up there. They are looking spiffy. And remember, the winners of this contest, in addition to a fun prize, I'm actually going to, assuming you actually make a recipe that is edible, I'm going to prepare and taste test the much I just shuddered uttering those words, given what I know some of you might come up with, the winners in each category. So yeah, so you've got until Christmas Day to get your entries in, so don't forget. Let's see, is that just about does it. So yeah, as I said, small patch tonight. It might actually be a fairly large build because I just realized there was but once again, a bug was happening involving fog rendering again that might require that I redo the bundles. It's like a long running shader bug with this version of Unity. I'm going to try to fix it. So yeah. So that just about does that, and I hope you all have a wonderful weekend and coming week, and I hope you're all as excited for what is coming on Meatmas Day as I am. So yeah, have a wonderful weekend. Peace.